I just got home from one of the premiere showings of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, or Angry Video Game Nerd the movie. That's right. One of the, I think it was one of the top 100 most subscribed to YouTube channels on all of YouTube back in the mid to late 2000s. The Angry Video Game Nerd. James Rolfe, director, cinematographer, if you will, and the creator of Cinemassacre, had this web series. It was really great. It was super popular. If you're a little younger, like maybe if you're in high school, you're not as familiar with it. But dude, when I was in college, like that was it, right? Angry Video Game Nerd. James Rolfe is really angry at old video games, reviews them, screams a lot of swearing, a lot of comparisons to diarrhea, doo-doo, dog poop, and things like that. And they're hilarious. They're fantastic. I've seen pretty much every episode. And he is a filmmaker, and that's what he's always wanted to do. So he said, you know what? Like, I didn't think AVGN would be as big of a success as it has become, but it is a big success, so I'm going to make a movie out of it. And he made a movie out of it. A feature film. I saw it at the Century Landmark Theater here in Chicago, right by Clark and Diversey, for you who are Chicago savvy. It's a theater that shows a lot of independent and third-party films and some of the smaller budget movies and things like that. But they only had a limited screening here. There were only 2 showings. I was lucky enough to get tickets to the second showing and went with my friend Blake. So, wow, the last several minutes of this, you've just been thinking to yourself, let's get to the review. So let's get to the review. So rest easy, everyone. The movie was good. I am not the kind of person that generally goes into or tries anything and automatically will give it an A+ just because it's something I like. I love Nintendo, but they make some games I don't like. I love Ninja Gaiden, and I hated the 3rd game, passionately. Really loved 1 and 2. Stuff like that, you know? So Angry Video Game Nerd, I knew, of course I love all the YouTube videos, but going from even a TV show to a feature film. I mean, I remember seeing the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie in theaters, and it was watchable, but it's Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a 15-minute show about talking food, and it didn't necessarily translate to the funniest movie ever made, right? So Angry Video Game Nerd is a 10 to 20-minute YouTube series where a guy swears a lot and makes fun of old video games. And that's kind of it. So could he make a movie out of it that was entertaining or good or funny? And the answer is definitively yes. I liked this movie. It is not movie of the year. It is not movie of the decade. But it is a good movie. It is a watchable movie. Of course, it helped that I was in a theater full of other fans who were laughing at everything and cheering at a lot of parts. But it was really entertaining. Now, I'm not going to spoil a whole lot of it. If you've watched the trailer, you know that the plot, the premise of the plot kind of centers around E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial, the Atari game, which, as you know, is pretty much the biggest video game failure of all time. I think Atari, he mentions it in the film, Atari lost over $500 million producing and creating this E.T. game and publishing it and distributing it, and just colossal failure, and kind of was the biggest part of the big video game crash of the late 80s or whenever that happened. So instead of going deep into the plot, because a lot of it is nice and surprising, I'll just say a couple things that did really well and the kind of people that might like this film. So if you're a fan of the movie, of the Angry Video Game Nerd, you'll like this film. What's nice is there are a lot of other YouTube gamers that make appearances in the film. I won't name all of them because some of them are, you want to be surprised, but there are a lot of little cameos. If someone just pops in for a minor role and you're watching and you're like, wait a minute, I've seen his YouTube series about video games, and that's cool. It never feels forced. They never really call it out. There's never any point where it's like, oh, hello, you're the other gamer from this gaming channel. It's just very kind of like, you know what? We're all gamers that produced video game related content on YouTube. I would like to invite you to be in my feature film because we all are kind of in this together, and it was cool to see that him working with them. So if you are really big into watching shows like the Nostalgia Critic, who does a lot of video game stuff, or a couple of the other kind of video game nerd reviewers, you'll see them in this. So people that are big YouTubers, if you spend a lot of time on YouTube watching video game content, you'll really love this movie. What I loved about the start of this movie, and this I think was super genius, is he sets up the story of E.T. and explains who he is in the first like 5 to 10 minute montage. Wow, I just got goosebumps even talking about it. The first 5 to 10 minutes, you can bring your girlfriend who has never touched a video game, or boyfriend, or significant other, or mom, or anybody. Probably not your mom, but you can bring anybody who has never even heard of the Angry Video Game Nerd and knows nothing about E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, and it is all set up right in front of you. The opening exposition is not only hilarious, it's entertaining, it's very, very well done, very well produced, sets up the whole film, and that's phenomenal. Because with a lot of movies with a kind of more niche audience, as it were, it's hard to bring somebody in that's not a fan. I remember when I saw the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie when I was little. Like, they have a little package at the beginning that kind of sums up the whole premise of the show for all the parents that are bringing their kids and wondering what the hell is going on. What are these people doing? You know, and in Power Rangers, it was like a 2 or 3 minute thing, and it's just like, many years ago, something happened, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were created, they can morph into things, and their leader is Zordon, and they fight evil. Cool, great. All right, I'm a parent, I'm taking my kid, I don't know what the hell is going on, I don't know who these people are in spandex, I don't know who they're fighting. Now I know. Let's get to the film. Angry Video Game Nerd does a phenomenal job of doing that. So right off the bat, anybody who was dragged to the movie by a friend of theirs suddenly is included and very entertained. And then from there, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's not so over the top that you can't digest anything, but it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. Things explode for no reason, and it's fun. It's very fun. So the first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie is great. Like, lots of laughs. Somewhat fat. I don't know about I don't know how the pace has nothing to do with it. There's just a lot of laughs. It's really good. And then there's some exposition, as you have to have some to kind of explain more plot points. Exposition overall generally pretty entertaining. It went a bit long. Now keep in mind I went to a 9:45 p.m. showing. I am not in my early 20s, so I may have been a little kind of old man, you know, late 20s or whatever, tired. If I hadn't seen it so late at night, I don't think it would have dragged as much. But I thought maybe a little bit of the middle part dragged a bit, but not a deal breaker. It didn't ruin the movie. It wasn't like bad. I'm just saying, like, in the interest of fairness and full disclosure, I guess, not all 2 hours or whatever of this movie was the best thing I've ever seen. Okay, so like, awesome opening. First even hour maybe it was phenomenal, and then, you know, it gets into some of the more storyline kind of elements where you're learning more, and then the ending is, oh my god, outrageous. It's just completely outrageous. And what's super cool about that is, if you do follow the Angry Video Game Nerd and you know about James Rolfe, you know that he's worked for Spike TV and done a lot of reviews. He's really big into horror movies. Plan 9 from Outer Space, old monster movies, things like that. That is his jam. He loves those. He made monster movies, I think, in high school growing up, and just wherever he could get his hands on a camera, he was making monster movies and horror flicks and things like that. And that is cool to know about, because when you go to this movie, you can see the influence that these things had in every second of the last half of this movie. Just all of it. All of the little kind of cheesy special effects that they're able to throw in and everything. And none of it takes you out of the film. Like, it's a very self-aware film without overdoing it. They're not constantly looking at the camera and winking. It's self-aware and throws in these gags that, not even gags, they're not even like, they don't feel out of place. They throw in these things that basically acknowledge, you know what, this was created by a guy that loves old monster movies, had no budget to make this feature film, and wanted to make it really fun. And you know it, we know it. So yeah, when this car explodes, you know it's a Hot Wheel we just dropped off a pile of rocks. Things like that. And it's great. It's great. There are a couple there's a lot of influences from monster movies. We're talking the Godzilla movies. We're talking even old movies. There's even a part in the movie where I kind of jumped, and he does it so well. It's just, it's a well-directed movie. It's a well-crafted movie. It's a reasonably well-acted movie. Everything about it is good. It, I mean, in terms of just as an overall film, and even the plot, the premise of the plot. After a little bit, some things are just crazy predictable, but in the beginning, like the way it's kind of set up, I was kind of watching and I was like, this isn't like a cookie cutter plot you see a lot. It's not like a save the girl kind of a thing or a save the world kind of a thing. Even at the beginning, it's kind of its own thing. It's about a YouTube celebrity basically, and they kind of acknowledge that pretty clearly. YouTube celebrity that wants to save his fans from the worst video game ever made, to a degree. So the way that they kind of set it up and kind of launch into it is like, this is kind of interesting. So I like that it's unique, and it kind of does its own thing and does whatever it wants. It does whatever it wants. This is a movie I think that James really, really enjoyed making. I would presume. I think everybody involved had a lot of fun, and it was solid. And it was solid. If you're like dying for spoilers or you want to know a little bit more about it, I tried to be, again, a little bit vague, hopefully not too vague. If you want more info, email us at unqualifiedpodcast@gmail.com. That's unqualifiedpodcast@gmail.com. And I'll reply. If you're just like, hey, give me, what's the movie about? Like, what's the main plot line? Like, I'll give you that info. Obviously, I think that a big part of the fun in any movie is going in not having any idea what to expect. Like, I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet. I know it's a comic book. I could read up on all the characters. I don't know anything about any of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't Wikipedia'd a single character. All right? So when I go, I'm going to have no clue what it's about whatsoever at all, period. And that's, like, to me, that's a cool thing about certain films. So if you're dying for stuff, like, hit me up. I'll give you some more info. But I would strongly advise you, if you like The Angry Video Game Nerd, if you think James Rolfe is a funny guy, if you like the premise, if you're a big YouTuber, or even if you don't even watch a lot of video game stuff on YouTube, you just like YouTube, go check this out. Go check this out. There are still select screenings across the country. The kind of the main, like, assistant director was at this one, and actually the nostalgia critic apparently lives in the suburbs, so he actually was at the screening as well, which was super awkward. I saw him, I walked by him, and he looked just like this guy Shane, who worked on Dance Dance Revolution: The Warrior's Path, this like super low budget film I was in. And I walked by him and I kind of like looked at him and nodded because I thought it was Shane, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I walked by, and then a few minutes later I was talking to somebody in the concessions line. And I was like, that's a nostalgia critic, isn't it? And he's got like a lot of subscribers, right? He's got probably a couple million. I've watched one or two of his videos. I think he's fine. I'm not a subscriber. I don't watch all of his stuff. He seemed nice enough or whatever. But it was super awkward, like kind of meeting him or whatever, because I just, totally over my head. So anyway, he was there, and I guess like an assistant director. But the Angry Video Game Nerd himself was not there. That was the point of that whole story, is the Angry Video Gamer was not there, but there were a couple people there, and it was cool. So he will be at some other screenings. Just Google it. There's a couple sites that show all the screenings, and there's still some tickets available in some cities. So if you get the chance, check it out. I don't know what he's going to do, like with a DVD versus YouTube release, or how that's going to work, but check it out. Like, it would be a fun Christmas present, I think, if it gets around to packaging before the holidays. So all in all, 2 thumbs up to the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I would give it, I don't do stars. We don't really like rate things on Unqualified Gamers, so I'm not going to say like 4 out of 5 stars or 3 out of 4 stars or anything like that, but I'd give it a solid, I don't know, not bad. So there you go. And I apologize again that John and I couldn't get our heads together for like a full, really great episode this week, but we will be back in 2 weeks after Gen Con with lots of stories. We'll have video games to talk about. I can almost guarantee it. And we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming soon, as the summer is finally wrapping up, and we will hopefully have a little bit of like our lives back once we start hibernating, because that's what you do in the Midwest, generally starting in late July, early August. Thanks, Polar Vortex. Anyway, I'm Cody from Unqualified Gamers. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe and check out our other podcasts. They're usually much longer. Hopefully this one didn't go too long for a review, but Angry Video Game Nerdy Movie was great. Go learn more about it. Thank you so much. And you know where to find us if, you know, you want more of this, whatever this is. UnqualifiedGamers.com.